It is a snow day where I am today, so school got canceled, which means I get to stay home and do some art things. I thought I would come on today and do something different. I'm just feeling kind of blah creatively, so I thought I would break out my Gelli plate. This is an 8x10 Gelli plate. It's essentially just a silicone pad about that thick, and you can use all kinds of different mediums with this. I like using acrylic paint and distress oxide, and recently in my crafting I realized I don't have a whole lot of blue printed paper in my stash, so I thought I would come in and maybe use some stamps for texture. I'll probably grab some bubble wrap and just some other random things that are sitting around my desk here, and see what I can come up with. I'll probably also pull some stencils. Actually, that's what I'll go do right now. Okay, so I went off camera and grabbed a couple of other things. I've just got a couple of paint brushes, a palette knife, but if you don't have a palette knife, some other really good things to use are used gift cards. Even the paper ones are great for this. A brayer, always handy, very cheap. You can pick them up almost anywhere. And I grabbed some stencils and some stamps. And you may also want to grab an ink of some sort. Stays On is probably one of the best ones if you want to retain the print and like the actual image. So I am going to just get creating and take you along for the ride, and we'll see what we end up with. So in this little crafty session, I actually used mostly paints and stencils. I tried to use some of my stamps, but for whatever reason, I don't know if I chose the right ink or what was going on, but I wasn't getting really good pulls using my the inks, so I just opted mostly for paint. And that first pull that I just did was probably one of my favorites, to be honest, and it was just straight up paint, not really any texture, except the texture that the brayer left behind. And I just kind of had more of a play than anything else. That was just from my paper towel that you just saw. And I think if I were to do this again, which I know I will, I'd like to play a little bit more with my stamps and using random things from around the house to create texture. I just didn't really have a lot close to hand when I did this video. I had like my comb and just some, I can't even remember, I think there was the palette knife that I showed you earlier. And I didn't really get adventurous with all of those things. I kind of got sucked into the stencil things, so that's mostly what I did. And made a great big mess and had a good old crafty time. So that was essentially the goal, because as I said at the beginning of the video, I was feeling kind of lacking my crafty mojo, so I just needed to do a little something to get me going. The good thing about using stencils is you actually get 3 different pulls when you use a stencil, which is really nice. Yeah, this is where I kind of tried to play with some of my stamps. I did the stamping directly on the Gelli plate. And then you can see some of it came up, but not a lot. So I think I just need to re-ink my Stays On ink pad. These are just dollar store stencils, so you don't have to go and spend a lot of money. I'm sure you could probably even find something like the Gelli plate for a lot cheaper. Because as I said before, it's just essentially a big silicone rectangle. And you can see here I'm not even using 8x10 paper. It's just 5x7 index cards, plain white index cards. And I think I got those from the dollar store too, actually. This one I didn't end up liking. I think the texture of the crowns was just weird. Again, just a dollar store stencil, nothing fancy. I wanted to try something metallic and black just to see what would happen. And I used some stamps here, as you can see. And it ended up being very, very subtle, but also very dull. So I think at the end of the video, I think I ended up redoing something with it. I can't remember what. So this is just gold acrylic paint. And it looks like I'll be right back to you live here in a moment. All right, I'm going to cut this relatively short because, as you can probably tell from the shadows on my desk, the sun is not in a great spot for filming right now. So I just gave each of these 5x7 cards a quick shot with my heat gun just to make sure they were all dry. I really like the way a couple of them turned out. I need a lot more blue paper, so I may be using this technique more often because it seems that blue is one of the colors that I go to and I never have enough of it. This was the first pull on the jelly plate, and then this was the second pull. I really like this one too. Not sure how I feel about this one. It may or may not get used. Same with this one. Not 100% sure how I feel about this. Somebody's complaining at my feet. I think this one was the first one I did. And then this was the second. And I just used my paper towel to create texture. So super easy way to do that. These were the ones I put aside because I was like, they need something else. I'm not super keen on the color. I'm not really sure. I'll likely end up doing something with these anyway, but it'll probably be, I might try doing the Distress Oxides over them next video. We'll see how we go. Yeah. So that's where things are. And I just added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I just added 13 cards to my stash. And if I were to cut these down to 3x4, then 26. So this is a great way to extend your white cardstock and use some of it up. And also a great way to use some of your acrylic paints if you're someone who has a lot of that in your stamps. All right, friends, puppy is complaining at my feet, so I will let you go. That's it for me for today. Thanks for coming to hang out with me, and I will see you next video. Bye for now.